All right, going back to our top story, and we'll find out what's actually happening when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, the situation between both the countries, and the Easter Truce, which is in the news. Joining me on the broadcast is Mr. Ashok Sajjanar, former senior diplomat. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast, first of all. It's a very tricky situation which is prevailing when it comes to Russia-Ukraine. Earlier, Russia announced a surprise one-day Easter truce. Then Zelensky said that Russia is trying to create impression of Easter ceasefire. Now Russia saying Ukraine broke Easter ceasefire over 1,000 times. How do you see the situation? What is actually happening?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, you're very right when you say that it's a very complex situation. It's a very tricky situation, because if it was not like that, then, at least over the last 100 days, from the 20th of January, when President Trump took office, and he's been trying to get at least a temporary, a partial ceasefire. He's not been able to get even that. And so we have seen that both as far as America is concerned and even as far as Ukraine is concerned, they have given their concurrence for a ceasefire, but it is Russia and Mr. Putin who have put in place some conditions that need to be satisfied before they will agree even to 30-day ceasefire, at least on complete ceasefire. Initially it was on energy installations, even that was not respected. So I think as far as 2 points I'd like to make here. Number one, the trust level between the two sides is very, very low, and we've seen that there is trading of charges and counter charges both by Ukraine and Russia. But of course, in terms of the evidence, that is available on the ground, we've seen that there have been attacks by Russia in the Donetsk region and also on Sumy, and there has been pictorial evidence that has been provided that the drone storage places, units have been attacked by Russia. I think Russia wants to, assume a high moral ground by declaring that, it's going in for humanitarian considerations. It is announcing this ceasefire because of what Mr. Trump has said, that either there is a ceasefire, there is a forward positive movement on, a pause as far as the conflict and fighting is concerned. Otherwise, the United States will sort of, move away
back out,
from these efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. This Easter truce, Mr. Sajjanar, is pretty much in the news. It's a surprise ceasefire announced by Putin. Do you see any motive behind this?
Basically, as I said, he wants to take the high moral ground, but it doesn't sound very convincing, because he says that he is doing it because he is motivated by humanitarian considerations. And surely, if humanitarian considerations were behind it, then for the last more than 3 years, we have seen so much of destruction, so much of damage, so much of violence, so much of killing of innocent people, women, children, old people, displacement of 8 million people. So, there would have been this greater interest in at least getting this 30-day ceasefire. But obviously his, Mr. Putin's humanitarian considerations have not, made him move towards that particular objective. Here, as I said, I think he wants to send out a message to Mr. Trump that he's also interested in a peace, in a ceasefire. But obviously, if he's putting in such totally unacceptable conditions that Ukraine should be, as they say, demilitarized, denazified, and the number of troops should be limited to about 50,000 or something of that sort. These are, if there are any conditions to be placed, they can be done later as a part of the negotiations, rather than putting them up front and making even a 30-day ceasefire contingent upon the acceptance of these conditions.
Definitely. But do you actually think there will be a solution out of this? Because even if I talk about the Easter Truce, both Ukraine and Russia are accusing each other of violating the Easter Truce. Do you think there is no smoke without fire? Something might have had happened.
Yeah, it is quite possible that one of them might have started it, but I would imagine that at the moment America would say that there are more cards in the hands of Russia. There are more cards in the hands of President Putin. He is in a more advantageous position, and he's been trying to push forward. Although I must say that Ukraine has also been standing strong, and we heard earlier that Russia would be able to evict and eject all the Ukrainian troops and forces from Kursk. But over the last few weeks, we have heard nothing of that nature, that Ukrainian soldiers have been evicted out of the Kursk region of Russia. And it was earlier reported that the Ukrainian forces have been completely surrounded from all sides, and they have nowhere else to go. Either they'll get killed or they'll have to surrender. So obviously the Ukrainians are also, they have dug in, they are holding strong. And also we've seen, even in whether it is Sumy or Kharkiv, Donetsk and Pokrovsk, these are places where Russia has been now battling for the last more than 9 months, and it's not really been able to make all that significant progress. So I think it has really come to a stalemate, and that is where both sides need to recognize that rather than expending inflicting more damage on both sides, because damage is taking place on both sides, and more death and more destruction, they need to sort of take a pause, go back and start negotiations, start talking, having a dialogue and diplomacy. And I think that is how they'll be able to come to some sort of a solution, whichever way it is, rather than putting preconditions even before even a 30-day truce can be agreed upon.
Okay. You're trying to say that conditions could be part of the negotiations, but they should not be put before both sides sit on one table and discuss about solution.
No preconditions. I think whenever ceasefire, it should be without any conditions, because this way even Ukraine can also put totally unacceptable conditions, saying that all the territory,
and then there will be no solution. Then there will be no
solution.
Okay, Mr. Sajjanar, is it too soon to ask that where this particular conflict is heading to, with United States talking with Russia also on one hand, and it's talking with Ukraine also on the other hand, and there is no solution still coming out? It's been almost 3 months since Donald Trump has taken office, but there is no solution which is coming out, which actually he had promised in the campaign.
Yeah, you see, if the United States, first, as you would remember, 28th of February, there was this fracas in the White House between President Trump and President Zelensky. After that, there was a stoppage in terms of providing support and ammunition and equipment to Ukraine. After that, it was resumed by the United States. So we can see that it can, continue, but I do not think that there is going to be any decisive result on the battlefield. That is what India has been saying. That's what Prime Minister Modi has said, that no solution of any problem or any issue can be found on the battlefield. It has to be done at the negotiating table. And if there is this sort of a stalemate, so neither will Ukraine be in a position to push out Russia from the territories it has occupied, nor will Russia be able to make any significant addition to the territories that it is already occupying over the last, that it has been able to do so over the last more than 3 years. So I think it will be judicious and it will be prudent on the part of both sides that they come around the table and they start talking about it. And it is under these circumstances, I think, that both Ukraine as well as Europe would be willing to talk and try to find a mutually acceptable solution to the issue.
Well, definitely, we also hope the same. We also hope that this conflict ends as soon as possible. But like you said, that it can only be possible when the two sides will sit on a table and talk, and that can only be done through dialogue and diplomacy, like our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi say all the time. But we leave it there. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in on the broadcast.
Thank you very much.